His agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses.
Hell yes.
Good.
That's just weakness. Weakness masquerading as strength.
Look at this fat.
Donald Trump's government isn't protecting our communities. They're traumatizing our communities. And that seems to be the entire point.
Bingo.
If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe.
Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it.
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight is our friend, Matt Palumbo, BonginoReport.com, author of the highly anticipated, highly regarded, some say, upcoming book on Alex Soros, The Heir, linked in the description for your pre-order. Welcome back.
Thank you, and I liked highly regarded. That was a good addition.
Can I write one of those reviews for your next book? And that'll be
It's too late for the back cover, but I can put it on Amazon.com if you want to.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll say it's highly regarded. That's it. In the news tonight, I have a breaking piece of news in a moment that I'm not sure you even know about, but we'll get to that momentarily. Big news around the country. The LA riots have calmed down a little bit. They're actually doing some policing. They did a little bit of curfew action. They've deployed some cops. Maybe even the National Guard had something to do with that. But we may see a new round of protests over the weekend all across the country. Get ready. Was that the height of the new summer of love, or was that just the warm-up act? I guess we're about to find out. Elon Musk says he regrets his tweets attacking Trump last week. Doesn't explain what caused them. I still remain committed to the drug theory. I think he came down off a crazy Hunter Biden high, and he just doesn't want to say it. But if you have a competing theory, I'll entertain it.
Well, he tried to defect and then realized it wouldn't work because he had some poll where he was like, I have an idea for an America party that will encompass 80% of what Americans believe, as if it's possible to get that percentage of people to agree, on anything. And then he had a poll, and I think 80% of people voted against it. So he did get 80% of people to agree, but it was in the opposite direction. Oh. It was kind of like the Twitter version of when the Wagner group turned on Putin and then realized it wasn't viable and was like, all right, just kidding, I guess.
I think that's way too scientific. I just think he did some drugs. Yeah. I don't think it was polling. I think he just did some crazy drugs. But
it's the Occam's razor version, I guess, yeah.
Trump says there's a trade deal with China, or at least the framework of one. The tariffs are staying in place for now. I get confused on these China announcements because they do one a month where they're like, oh, it's done. But really, you mean like a few things are generally agreed to, and there's a lot more work to do. So I think that's kind of where we are right now. Plus, we'll take calls and emails if you'd like to call the show. Find the link to the Discord server in the description. There are instructions and help available on the server. We'll catch up with your Superchats as well. Speaking of, hey, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the show. You can do that one time or recurring for as little as $1 a month over on my website. That's mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. Support for the show not only helps me sustain, but it pays the people who make this show possible. There are perks available for your support as well. And you can check out the merch store too. Lots of great designs for t-shirts, mugs, and more. Likewise, merch sales help not only my operation, but they support the designers who made these designs, all of whom are listeners of this stream. mattchristiansenmedia.com/shop. Find both of those links right there on the homepage, mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.gay, if you can't spell my confusing name. Got to say hello to our friendly listener-owned business for the evening. That's our friends at Hero Soap Company. It may be a little too late to get these fine cologne offerings for your smelly dad in time for Father's Day, but you know what? Any time of the year is a great time of the year to have a fine-smelling dad, or to smell fine for your dad or whoever else you may encounter. You can do that with new colognes in my signature scents from Hero Soap Company. Timberline and Old West, the bar soap classics, are available in solid colognes. None of that liquid mess. Timberline, of course, is the classic frosty pine experience where the forest meets the peaks. Old West will bust open the saloon doors with the scent of leather and oak barrels. You can try these new signature colognes or any of Hero Soap's other high-quality, all-natural, made-in-the-USA offerings, bar soap, liquid soap, shampoo, conditioner, and more. 10% off all of it. Promo code MCListener at herosoapcompany.com. Promo code MCListener. 10% off everything at herosoapcompany.com. Of course, you can find all the information plus all the other offers from the rest of our friendly listener-owned businesses at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Deals by listeners for listeners. Okay, I mentioned.
It's David Hogg, isn't it?
Damn it.
Sorry. All right. It was my best guess.
I had a whole setup.
Just pretend I never said that. Go ahead. I'll act surprised when you announce it. Hold on. Go ahead.
You know this show too well. You should have guessed. You found another football player with a slur-sounding name. That's what you should have guessed.
Yeah.
But yes, I have breaking news that I wasn't sure that you're even aware of. Matt.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I wasn't.
We got him.
David Hogg ousted as co-vice chairman of the DNC. Although, you tell me, is that a win? Is this a win? Is David Hogg comparatively sane to who might replace him? We don't know who's going to replace him.
Well, he got ousted for being a white guy, so I stand with David Hogg on that basis alone.
Welcome to Club Nazi, David Hogg. We're pleased to have you.
I mean, the real reason he got ousted is because he was using the DNC platform to, or at least signify that he wanted to raise money against basically mainstream establishment Democrats, where I guess his position is simultaneously the best and worst spot to do that, in that you're infiltrating the system, but they can also just get rid of you. So what's the point?
So the vote was done today. The party, this was just the vote whether to retain him in his co-vice chair position, or him and his co-vice chair, Malcolm Kenyatta. And you're exactly right that technically the dispute was that the DNC leadership election in February was rigged in favor of these evil men against female candidates. And so on that basis, I guess they ousted him. But you wonder, that doesn't mean that's why members of the DNC voted to remove him. They probably voted to remove him for the exact thing you're talking about. We prefer you not spending a bunch of money to oust our members of Congress through primarying them. Thank you.
The woman who brought the challenge based on whatever rule, whatever technicality, she was a candidate for DNC, and she either got no votes or a single-digit amount. So it was, I mean, the fact that they would take that seriously from someone basically irrelevant on the stage just shows that, okay, that was the Trojan horse to get rid of the kid. And it was gonna, if it wasn't that,
she filed that way before he ever announced that he was going to do his $20 million thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she did that right after the election. So I think it was legit.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, did they start advancing it after the announcement, and that like they kind of had it on the burner, but then
for some reason it took forever for her complaint to process at the DNC. I guess the DNC works just like the federal government itself. You know, you file paperwork and then you become a skeleton waiting for it to be processed. And as far as I'm aware, that's why it took so long. But speaking of taking so long, it's just David Hogg and Malcolm Kenyatta are gone. There's no replacement as of now. They're going to vote for one vice chair person. I can't say chairman because only one of them will be a man. The other will be a vice chair of any gender. So David Hogg, just complete the transition and regain your office that way would be my suggestion. My question is, what will David's revenge be? Is he mad enough now to commit a mass shooting? Will we see a David Hogg? Don't forget, he is friends with Tim Walz.
I've become friends with school shooters.
So I wouldn't rule it out. David Hogg's character arc, full circle.
I mean, him becoming a gun nut would be the best possible.
I suppose I shouldn't laugh at prospective murder. You're right.
Yeah. Anyway, it was all for good fun. He's gonna be like Lindy Lee and just change all his positions in one day because he got pissed off. That would be cool, even though it will be completely fake.
All right, moving on to the riot status. It seems like it finally calmed down some last night in L.A. They had a curfew. Mayor Karen Bass put one in place between, I think, 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. You can't be out. They're going to have a curfew again tonight. Of course, you got the National Guard presence built out downtown, at least over the last couple days. And there were 25 arrests by 10 p.m. last night, maybe some more overnight, according to the LA Times. What explains this? What explains the protests cooling down? Could it be that law enforcement actually works? No way, that's not the full explanation. The LA Times, at least partial explanation, is that faith leaders helped convince this violent mob to go home. That's right, this militant leftist mob pays a lot of attention to their clergy.
I doubt it.
And so the faith leaders convinced them to lay down their rocks and lay down their molotovs and go home. Now, there is another factor, though. Maybe they just got tired. I don't know. I mean, you're out there rioting for several days in a row. You just get tired and go home eventually. I think there's one factor that was critical in their decision to relax a little bit, or at least, not be as crazy as they were being. Did you see Trump's message, his presidential declaration from the Oval Office? You catch that?
Actually, no, but I need to watch it.
Yeah, I think this was a great moment in American history. I think this convinced a lot of them to change their ways.
My fellow Americans, it is with overwhelming enthusiasm that I am declaring that anyone who protests or interferes with ICE and their operations is officially gay, big time. With that being said, go ahead and call your dads, tell them about your alternative lifestyle as a gay communist. And then, who knows, maybe eat a lollipop. I don't know what flamers do with their time, but I'd imagine it's something along those lines. Maybe decorate a bathroom, who knows? In either case, this is who you are now, and everybody knows it. Cat's out of the bag. Cat is out of the bag.
It's well scripted, too.
Yeah, the AI is getting so good. Obviously, don't worry, Rajamohan. That's a fake AI-generated deep fake video. I'm not presenting it as real. Credit to @MaverickDarby on X for that one. But yeah, it's not just that the voice replication is good. You're right. It's like there's good. It's the repetition of cats out of the bag that was key in that one. Man, if it wasn't for the absurdity of what he was saying, I could probably believe that's a real video. If he was just saying a more normal thing.
I thought it was until I heard gay.
Yeah, that's why it's such a great one. That's like the best one I've ever seen. But, I don't think anybody wants to be a presidentially designated flamer. So they went home.
Could be.
Or, as I said, is it just the calm before another storm? As we'll get to, there are supposedly big protests planned for the coming weekend. Last night, Gavin Newsom gave an address to California, a special speech himself. And this comes after he filed a lawsuit on Monday. He's done a couple court moves now, but there was a lawsuit filed on Monday in federal court trying to stop Trump's National Guard deployment. I posted a video about that this morning. You can find that on my channel or on my website. And he's calling this an address to California. I think everybody knows, practically speaking, this is really an address to the country to position himself as the next Democratic presidential nominee. And Democrats continue to read the room very poorly. It's not just Gavin, but it's a lot of Gavin. And when I say the room, I mean the country, because the one issue that Trump enjoys solid majority support for is immigration. He's a little bit damaged on the economy. He's not great on a lot of other issues. People, by majority in polling, so 50% plus, approve of his immigration plans. And by polling, it's not just, hey, deport like the violent criminals or just these. It's people who are here illegally, deport them. That is what is supported in polling. And Democrats are going to try to take up that fight. So I think if you're the Democrats, if you want to be smart, rolling into the next election cycle, you want to beat Trump, or of course, Trump's not going to be the guy next time unless something crazy happens. But you want to beat whoever the next Republican is, you yield, or at least you moderate on immigration a little bit, and you focus on these other issues like the economy where Democrats are going to have a better chance. But they can't let immigration go. Or maybe it's just that they want to be crazy to win the Democrat primary and they plan on moderating later, whatever. But Gavin is giving this message that is supposed to be a sob story and then warning you that you're next. You know, the ICE is going to come get you if you support this stuff. This comes off as more funny than serious.
His agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses. That's just weakness masquerading as strength. Donald Trump's government isn't protecting our communities. They're traumatizing our communities. And that seems to be the entire point. If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe.
Okay. So we're supposed to be upset because he listed a series of modest jobs. But Americans, of course, don't care what job you work if you are here illegally.
Go back to where you come from, okay?
And the problem with that is they're not just innocent gardeners, innocent dishwashers. You look at some of the people that were picked up in this supposedly controversial ICE raid in LA this week and over the weekend. I know there were 100 plus arrested, and this is only 9 of them, but there are 9 of them in this KTLA reporting convicted felons and violent felons in many cases, and not just violent. A lot of these guys, lewd acts with a child, lewd acts with a minor, sexual crimes against kids. So a little bit more than gardening or seamstressing or whatever else. I don't know. To whom does that, you tell me, is when he's doing the gardener, dishwasher, seamstress bit, is that designed to appeal to the Democrat base? Is that where he's aiming? Or is he thinking that to whom is Gavin talking there? Because I'm very confused about who he thinks he's appealing to here.
I guess it's the crowd who thinks we need them to do jobs we supposedly won't do. But the thing about that argument is you can make it no matter what the job is, because you can make it like, oh, they're low-skill jobs, so they're sympathetic because they're poor and working hard. But if they were like doctors and engineers, then it would also be significant. It's just this dumb argument liberals do, and it's cliche. They'll say things like, illegals, like, they're here to work, they want to take care of their family, they pay taxes, and I'm like, that's the bare minimum you have to do. Like, that's just being alive and being a functional human being. Those are things you're expected to do.
Yeah, that's traits you would hope to have in your neighbor.
For that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a list of traits you would hope to have in your neighbor rather than national hero or something like that. But I guess that's their point. Maybe they're saying they should be your neighbors. The problem is that is a falsehood. The idea that it's just nothing but people looking for a better life. They're just coming here trying to work hard. Well, as producer Tim asked on Sunday, if you're working hard in the fields doing jobs Americans don't want to do, how is it that you're free in the middle of the day to go riot in downtown LA?
Well,
yeah.
The thing about all these arguments for why illegal immigrants, especially from Latin America, are so beneficial is if they are true, mass deportation will be the best thing ever that happens to Latin America.
Yeah, it'll fix the countries right away.
Yeah, the homes are going to get built. All these jobs that aren't getting done are going to somehow get done. And it's just, they think America is, or I've heard it called a magic dirt theory, that, people will see a neighborhood that is really well run and just think, oh, well, they just got lucky and that's the reason why, as opposed to it being because of the kind of people who live there. We're not, believe it or not, we're not actually all equal. We just are under the law.
Yeah. We could have a whole equality discussion for 20 minutes, I'm sure, but maybe we'll get into that later. I also hate this "you're next" nonsense. If illegals could be arrested and deported, you're next. Really? Because I'm pretty sure Americans are perfectly safe. And if you're worried about somehow getting caught up in an immigration raid, like you were shopping at Ambiance in downtown LA and somehow you got scooped up with Juan and Pedro, okay, I bet you could produce your driver's license. I bet you could produce a birth certificate if you had to. I bet you could produce some documentation to demonstrate your citizenship, and you're going to be just fine. Not even that evil man Tom Homan will imprison you then. He'll say, sorry, see you later.
They fearmonger over people having to carry papers as if you can't just fit it in your wallet. Like it's the most minor inconvenience. It's something you do once and you just keep it in there. Like, what am I missing here?
Just the logic, too. Like, well, if anybody could just be arrested and deported, then we don't even have a country. The opposite is true. If anybody can come here anytime they want and stay as long as they want and not get removed, We don't have a country at all, but it's just clever rhetoric as usual. I posted a video this morning about Gavin's lawsuit, and at the end I made a joke that Gavin is not going to call it an invasion. He's going to call it an invasión because we'll all be speaking Spanish. And I didn't see his tweet before making that video. He already did the bit by the time I put the video. I had not seen this. Gavin Newsom tweeted in Spanish last night, and I'm not going to read it in Spanish, even though I took many semesters of it. I still sound like a complete idiot. But it translates to, the founding fathers of this nation neither lived nor died to witness this moment. It's time for all of us to rise up peacefully. I'm pretty sure the founding fathers never envisioned being called Los Padres Fundadores.
What was so funny was he wrote it in English, and then the Spanish one was right below, and just the juxtaposition was so funny.
Los Padres, San Diego. Now they're the San Diego baseball team, the Padres. Yeah. Anyway, now I know it wasn't the founding fathers, strictly speaking, like the colonial and revolutionary era guys, but there were some subsequent founding father-like guys who my general historical understanding tells me actually fought the Mexicans and the Spanish. So I guess somewhere in the 1800s, we lost our love for Hispanic culture somehow.
Oh, well.
And again, for a guy with national political ambition, I don't understand the strategy here. First of all, even California Hispanics are cringing at this. They are not reading this thinking, oh, this is a guy who gets it. Yeah. No, everybody hates this. They probably hate it the most. And this was tried before. You remember Beto and Cory Booker on the debate stage in 2019 trying to out-Spanish each other and how awful that was?
You know what's the cringiest is when they put on the accent, but just so when they say the word Latino, they'll be like, so I'm here with my Latinos, and we're here to do whatever. Why? Why are you pretending you're white?
We had, was it chatters or callers? I forget, but members of the audience, listeners were complaining about when people try to just read the name in Spanish, it'll be like, Rodrigo Hernandez. Yeah. And it's like, just call him Rodrigo. Shut the hell up. God. Anyway, speaking of the inability to understand the rest of the country, though, as it appears Gavin Newsom does, or he's deploying some sort of strategy I don't understand, this MSNBC analyst had some hilarious commentary. Arresting and deporting illegal aliens is just like slave chasing in the mid-1800s.
This reminds me historically of it's not a clear analogy, but when the nation, when these political factions divided the nation in between slaveholders and slave catchers, when they made everybody with the fugitive slave law, all of us had to, if someone escaped, all of us had to return that particular piece of property to these folk. With ICE running around LA, forcing people to make choices. Will they protect their friends, their neighbors, their family members? So I'm sitting here trying to figure out, what will the country stomach? Are they going to allow this man to do this? And the answer that I keep coming to is yes.
See, everyone knows the red states are chasing down those escaped illegals and desperately trying to get them back. Hey, I need a taco. Go get that guy. All right.
In this analogy, though, wouldn't the slaves be getting deported to freedom? I just don't understand. There's only two events in our history. It's like racial history and then World War II and the Holocaust. Those are the only two things that have ever happened.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, and then I thought about it. I thought this isn't as historically silly as it seems, because Lincoln originally thought, hey, let's deport the slaves.
Yeah, Liberia.
Let's deport them back to Africa. That was the Lincoln position before the rest of the history. And I actually get it. Now, I'm not giving full credit to his point, because he says in that exchange there, I'm not saying that the activities are the same. I'm saying the split in the country is the same. And I actually think he's kind of right about that, or he might be right.
True.
And part of the evidence for that is just him. When he's at the end saying, will this country stand for this? And I fear that the answer is yes. Yes, the answer is yes. The rest of the country that you don't understand is not just standing for it. They're saying, good. Yes, finally. I love it. More dishwashers, more seamstresses, more gardeners.
Did you see CNN's report this week? Like Harry Enton was going over the data, and In 2020, among legal immigrants, their support for illegal aliens was plus 32, and now they're against them, -8.
Wait, who is immigrants themselves?
point.
Legal immigrants or who?
Legal immigrants are now on net have less sympathy, are negative sympathy for illegal.
If you're a legal immigrant, I especially don't understand how you would have sympathy for these people.
Well, that's the thing. I don't understand how it was ever positive that they did. I always assumed like they must hate them the most, but apparently not until 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, it surprised me.
But yeah, when he
talks
talks about like the potential of this issue to split the country in a Civil War style way, I'm not predicting civil war tomorrow, but I do think that the split is very wide in the way he's describing. He doesn't even understand the other side, how they could possibly view it that way. But the other reason the split is significant is because it is a country separating principle. Are we a country that agrees on the general proposition, the general idea of how one enters the country and obtains citizenship? Or are we a country that just says anybody can come in whenever they want, stay however long they want? You're not a country if you do that. And so it wouldn't even be like a split. You would have to just start over. You'd have to start a new country because the old one doesn't fit the definition of country. It's just blob that people move through or out of freely.
Well, I always want, maybe we could just take one state and make it like a containment zone.
I was talking about this earlier today.
Yeah, California just takes, California has something like half the nation's homeless people. It's something insane statistic. So they can take the homeless, the illegals, just get them all there. All the companies will flee, so it won't matter. People are going to go, what about Silicon Valley? They'll flee, so it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
That is their problem. We can build a wall around California.
There were all kinds of compromises leading up to the Civil War on slavery. This seems like a fair compromise to me. You guys get one state, but it's not really. You just have to make your own country out of it. It's not a part of the United States.
Which they can easily do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to suck, but they can.
You know, you can have what is there now, but you're not a part of us anymore. You get one. California, I mean, it sucks to yield California because there's a lot of good stuff in California. But hey, to move on from this disaster, I'm listening if they want a deal. Anyway, back to the riots. The question remains whether there's what level of funding or organization might exist behind these riots. Are they truly organic? Are they truly spontaneous? Or is there someone or some organization behind them? Senator Josh Hawley, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism, says he's launching an investigation to find out who that is. Is there, maybe it's in the book The Air on Alex Soros coming out in December. I don't know.
There is one major group. Well, so one of the major group is that Party for Liberation and Socialism group, and people can probably identify them just by their signs. They're kind of at every left-wing protest ever. They are largely funded by a tech billionaire who's a Maoist for some reason and has CCP ties. But there is sort of a Soros tie, and I was actually interviewed by the Daily Mail earlier this week about this, and I hate that I'm drawing a blank on the name, given I was just writing about this 2 days ago, but one of the major groups besides PSL that is protesting actually got money got something like 30+ million from the state of California. They raised 30+ million last year, and a majority of it was in the state of California itself in grants, and they got Biden State Department money, but they also got money from a group called the Tides Foundation, which is a very well-known pass-through that George Soros uses, and now Alex Soros, to fund various left-wing causes. So Tides gave about $500K to this group, which, obviously it's a minority of their total funding. Soros's funding of Tides is a minority of their funding, but it is an indirect contribution. But I wouldn't say he's necessarily pulling the strings. It's just his money has sprung up there.
How is all this money still moving with USAID cut down so significantly? Who knows?
Well, it's the most recent filings were from last year, so it's
I wouldn't be surprised. Hawley is he wrote a letter to this organization called Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, who he suspects
that's
is
the group. That's the group.
Yeah, okay.
So
he thinks they're behind a lot of this. Are they not just are they getting gigantic Soros checks or something, but if they're getting government grants, I mean that is a massive scandal. If they're getting government grants that are going to support organized riot efforts in a major American city. The pieces are kind of loosely there. I'm not making a direct accusation against that organization because that's what Hawley is looking into. But the scale of this stuff and how quickly it pops up. Now, I'm of two minds on this. Could I believe that there's someone behind the scenes pulling the strings and cutting checks? Absolutely. However, is LA a crazy enough land of deranged, drug-addicted hobos with no jobs who could absolutely show up on a moment's notice? Yes. And they're not mutually exclusive. They could be A and B.
They're pouring gasoline on a fire. But yeah, there are organic left-wing especially when there's looting. Like when you see the kind of people who do looting, they don't need to be paid to do that. Like they're looking for the opportunity, and if one presents it, they're going to do it.
You know how I know they're paid though? It's because we have the most convincing, conclusive piece of evidence possible, and that is Mayor Karen Bass's denial of such a thing.
He said, I'm quoting him, they're incompetent and they paid troublemakers, agitators, and insurrectionists. They're engaged in the willful attempt to nullify federal law and aid the occupation of the city by criminal invaders.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that he said we paid for the violence to take place? Is that what you just said? Well, let me just say it is absolutely absurd that either myself or the governor would be supportive in any way, shape, or form to the vandalism and the violence that has taken place in our city.
We're not paid actors. It really happened.
I believe her.
Well, the state of California says otherwise. It's so bizarre, their talking points, because ultimately they do support what's going on there. They do support the rioting. But then again, they're also trying to blame it on Trump. So the headline is like left wing blames Trump for riot they support. I just don't get.
At least they support the perspective of, but yeah, it's you can't tell me, as we were talking about on Sunday, you can't tell me that the delay in policing originally was anything but a strategic meeting of the minds in power in California deciding how do we want to manage this politically, rather than for the sake of, I don't know, the mass level of crime being committed against citizens of your state and city. Maybe you just police that for its own sake. I have no doubt they operated according to a political strategy rather than just the moral principle of we should stop people from looting and burning and destroying and attacking. But there is some justice on the way, maybe. I mean, there have been a lot of arrests for various things, from just curfew violation to violent attacks. But maybe the most famous guy over the weekend was this rock chucker man. I'm sure you saw the video of him just chucking big rocks at ICE vehicles driving by. Dan Bongino had tweeted out, we're going to identify this guy. We're going to find this guy. I guess Laura Loomer is the one who figured out who he is, according to this report. She's nuts,
but she does have some good scoops here and there.
She does focus her energy very well at times. If she, I mean, that's what this reporting says, is she's the one who did it. So, Elpidio Reyes. Speaking of the ethnic pronunciation, how do I Elpidio
Reyes?
Okay, yeah, he's the guy. But they figured out who he is. Pam Bondi says they got a search warrant on his house that they executed on Monday. He's on the run now, though, so check your local overpass for a guy chucking rocks at police cars. It might be Elpidio striking
self-support.
Again. Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe
it's the best option for him.
Yeah. Listen, you got your rock throws. Now get the hell out of here, okay? It's more than you deserve. Yeah, the $50,000 reward for information that leads to his capture. So I don't know why. I wonder if Loomer is going to get some of that reward money for identifying him.
To be fair, though, I have seen Loomer claim credit for scoops that you ripped off other people. So I don't know for sure, but if so, good for her. I saw someone the other day refer to her as a mid Jigsaw, and I can't get over how funny that is.
How dare you?
That's way too kind, actually.
Oh.
But I will leave I'll keep the rest of my Loomer opinions to myself.
Have you seen the Mr. Medicare video about her? It was like 5 or 6 years ago.
I have not, no.
Oh, it's a classic. It's called Laura Loomer's Dirty Bloomers, if anyone wants to look it up. She's certified insane. But good. I mean, good for her on being successful despite that. But I don't think she can legally own a firearm in Florida for mental health issues.
Mental health reasons? Okay.
I don't know why. I'm bashing this woman for no reason. I should just stop.
Anyway. Oh, that's all right. Yeah. This show has a history of that.
Nah.
Okay. There's another guy, another violent guy from the weekend arrested. And, it's just another gardener, he might be a seamstress, although he's a man. So what's the male term? I don't know. A dishwasher is what he is.
I don't know.
Now charged with attempted murder, DHS announced today that ICE has arrested a previously deported illegal immigrant from Mexico accused of throwing a Molotov cocktail at cops during Saturday's riots. I don't even know this. Emiliano Garduno Galvez. That's his name. He sounds like a founding father, actually. Are we sure he wasn't a signer of the Declaration of Independence?
God.
Anyway, this guy's an illegal immigrant. He came back to the country. He's throwing Molotovs at cops. Speaking of, Elpidio, the rock chucker man, we don't know his immigration status. I would say odds are better than 50-50 that he's illegal himself, to your point on self-deporting. But whenever Democrats go completely insane, lose touch with the rest of the country, which is most of the time, you can always count on their brain-damaged member to try to restore sanity. Once again, based Frankenstein, John Fetterman, is bucking the party. He tweeted Monday, and I don't know how. I call him based Frankenstein as a joke, of course. I'm
going to be the nerd and be like, it's Frankenstein's monster, actually.
Yeah, based Frankenstein's monster, yeah. Thank you for being accurate to Mary Shelley.
No, of course.
But yes, John Fetterman tweeted Monday, I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration, but this is not that. This is anarchy and true chaos. My party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement. The only silly thing about that statement, other than probably the policy positions, is the premise that the Democrat Party has the moral high ground, though. I think Satan himself may have some higher moral ground. Even Satan's a little more honest than I think some of the party leadership. But Fetterman followed up in all caps. He put it in more Frankenstein monster terms. Win the argument. Do not loot. Set shit on fire. Assault law enforcement. Do. Protest peacefully. Organize to win elections. Call out destructive behavior like this. There's no question, though, if Democrats start listening to based Frankenstein, they have a much better chance of actually winning than if they listen to Gavin Newsom, at least for the moment. But have you seen this clip? There's
this is horrible.
So you have seen this one, okay?
Yeah, I stand with black women, is what I have to say.
David Hogg and black chicks, we're all in solidarity against.
Today, I'm with them.
Yes. No shortage of viral, insane clips from the riots, of course. This one posted from Frontlines I think it's hilarious, but it's also, it's depressing too. Yeah. This is just the state of our politics right now in a microcosm. I don't know the context of what's going on here other than, of course, it's LA. This clip was captured by Savannah Hernandez at Frontlines. Protesters are blocking an intersection. A woman of color exits the vehicle to request these people move so she can get through, so she can get to work to provide for her child. And she gets lectured by two deranged white-looking people about how immigrants are having their children stolen. And this man actually mocks her desire to work.
But I have a kid. If I don't, and these people are having their children taken and their parents. What about my kids? Look at this. That's what happens to my kids. I can't help it. But you can if you could just move off the way. You're not going to. How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do? No, it's not.
How do you let white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave.
I hate you all. Die, die, die.
Will someone please start revving their engine?
Aren't there states where you can legally run them over?
Just for standing there? I don't know about that. I think if they get aggressive with your car and start surrounding you and stuff. Yeah.
Bummer. All right, never mind. Well, there should be. I don't know. Maybe it's a slippery slope if you make that the case. I don't know.
Lydia, Tim Pool's former producer girl. Cool. They should be deported just for how they look.
Seriously.
I agree. But even if we accept the premise that immigrants are having their children taken, which is bunk. I mean, a person commits a crime or breaks the law, they're separated from their children. That's how it works. But how is making life harder for other children a solution? Oh, 2 starving kids makes a right. That is the commie mindset, apparently.
The first step of effective activism is alienate as many people as possible.
Until they'll give in because they're so annoyed with you, they want you to just go away.
Their logic, they'll be like, yeah, like blocking roads might be bad, but it's not as bad as the Holocaust. They always compare it to the most like extreme thing ever, and it's like, okay, yes, but this doesn't solve the problem. So what do you mean?
I think what enrages me the most is this presumably outrageously high or maybe outrageously drunk. He's got some kind of tall boy beverage in his hand, or maybe both. Just look at his face. You could tell how intoxicated he is. But this man's mockery of a work ethic. I mean, doesn't that...
A black woman's work ethic, mind you.
Thank you.
I suddenly care about that.
It captures the state of masculinity right now, or at least the state of a certain segment of it. Oh no, not missing work. Yeah, I can tell, that philosophy has informed your life in many ways. Maybe you should get a little more serious about work. Things might improve. But the one time that the Waffle House tactics needed to be deployed, the grab the hair and hammer punch, that's the LaMonica McIver, who we'll get to in just a little bit. This lovely lady was very patient and very respectful. God bless her for that.
That face.
But if anyone needed to deploy the Waffle House hammer punch, it was her, and I wish she would have. But she probably didn't because she's a good mom for her children, I'm sure. Now, all of that, as I mentioned, that might just be the warm-up act. This weekend is Flag Day, and that's also Trump's birthday, and it's also the 250th anniversary of the Army. And so Trump has this gigantic military parade planned in D.C., and supposedly there are now 1,800 planned so-called No Kings protests, counter-protests, planned for Saturday across the country. Also, I'm sure, very organic, not funded by who knows, whoever these people are, whoever these organizations are, not planned for months, whatever. Attendance is expected to surpass the April 5th hands-off event, which apparently had 3 million nationwide participants.
I don't give a damn fuck.
And we already forgot about it because it didn't do anything. But unless they get violent, this weekend's event is going to have the same sort of effect. But I wonder, are we going to watch the sort of April 5th hands-off nonsense that was just a bunch of olds out there with their lame signs and nothing really happened? Or is the riot energy going to carry through the weekend? We'll have to wait and see. But I'm running out of time.
Boomer.
So I'll probably have to go ahead, but I'll probably have to.
It feels more boomer coded
to
me. I don't know why. It's just intuition.
What feels?
I think this kind of process, it feels more boomer coded as opposed to like direct action or something.
Yeah.
Because the people who are trying to stop ICE raids view themselves as like resistance fighters against Hitler, and this is more of like I don't know, boomers reliving the 60s and like feeling like they're standing. I don't know. I'm doing a horrible job describing. This is my prediction.
Yeah, don't forget Kathy Griffin though, holding that bloody Trump head. They get crazy and at least implicitly violent sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't plan to talk about the riots for like almost 45 minutes, so I got more to get through before the top of the hour. I hope to get to callers by the top of the hour, but so I'm gonna hurry up a little bit.
Really quick.
But where I didn't even catch what he said. Where the hell did he go? Anyway, Elon Musk. Last week, we talked about this on Sunday, of course.
Just grabbing a drink.
Oh, okay. Last week, after he left Doge, Elon Musk went a little crazy with a tweet storm, saying, among other things, that Trump is in the Epstein files. That's why they won't release them. Elon Musk is responsible for Trump getting elected, and that Trump should be impeached and replaced by J.D. Vance. Then Elon deleted those tweets without explanation, and now apparently he has some kind of explanation.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Early this morning, Elon tweeted simply, "I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far." But as far as I see, he did not specify the ones he regrets, the ones that went too far. And if you only regret some and only some went too far, what are the ones that you don't regret and that didn't go too far? But I've made my theory on Elon Musk clear. That guy went on a weird bender. That's all that happened. I wish he would just say it. Do you want to add more to your theory about like this being a political strategy type thing?
Well, I guess I'll pledge that if we ever have a falling out, I'll never accuse you of being a pedophile. But yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, I think your explanation probably is the most likely, that he just did a ton of drugs, but I think if like his idea, if he got any traction, I think he was probably going to run with it. He just realized, oh wait, this was a huge fuck up. You might remember too, after the election, he was like calling white people lazy for being against the H-1B visas.
That was the original, and then he said, "I'm going to go to war over this." That was a big Elon red flag.
Everyone, that went south for him, except for Indian Twitter, which is most of Twitter now, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know. The guy's a total kook, but I'm glad he gave us hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, if we get more explanation, I will return to the story because I want to know what the hell happened. But other big news today, just hours ago, Trump says that a trade agreement with China is done. There have been days of negotiation in London this week. Trump said in a Truth Social post, "Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me." So it's not done, maybe kind of done in principle, but it's not signed. Anyway, full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied upfront by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. We are getting a total of 55% tariffs. China's getting 10%. The relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention in this matter. So the U.S. and China, at least according to this description, are going to maintain tariffs at their current levels, at least for the time being. That would mean they're lower than they were on the Great Liberation Day of April 1st, but higher than they were when Trump took office. And as I mentioned at the time of the show, this is being described as a done trade deal, but it's not signed
Probably
yet.
not.
We don't have the details fully on it. And so I think this is kind of more of the same that we've seen recently. That's not to say it's bad, or whenever things are described as done and then you have more meetings and more things to sign and more paperwork to do, they're not really done. So it's progress. That's probably a good thing. But the market, at least today, is not really looking at this as any sort of major change. The market actually dipped a little bit today, presumably because the deal maintains existing tariffs for now. However, on the economic front, there's a little bit of a reason for encouragement, and that's that May's inflation numbers are out. Again, they're pretty good, 2.4% year on year. That's right in line with last month's 2.3%, which was the lowest in 4 years. May's numbers were lower than expected. So at least for now, tariffs have not prompted the major price increases that were feared. Either that or maybe increased costs from tariffs are being offset by some other factor. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, about why it is that the inflation that was feared from the tariffs maybe it's just too soon. I mean, we had tariffs go into effect in April and we're still only getting May numbers.
Yeah, that could be it. I mean, some companies could be eating the tariffs to some extent as well if they can afford to. Although I would have to double check, I didn't know if the tariffs are treated as taxes in the inflation numbers, meaning they wouldn't show up in them.
Like they're excluded from the cost
analysis? Yeah,
analysis?
This is monetary inflation. I'm not, I actually don't know. Someone in the comments will school me over this.
Based on the coverage saying that it
seems like it's not, though.
It seems like it's not a separate expense or something that would be, it seems like it would be baked into the price of the good or the service, which would be factored into inflation.
Correct. That's what I would assume. So, because they're passing on the cost, so it should show up in the inflation. It's not like it's a tax in the same way as sales tax is. It's a built-in tax.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The thing about Trump is you can just kind of blindly follow anything he says, and you're right like 90% of the time. Like nothing he's done makes any sense in terms of like basic Econ 101, and it's all working out. So
I'm not saying you should be a Trump cult member. I'm just saying if you were, you'd probably be mostly okay.
90%. 90%.
Yeah, that's better than other cults for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of our relationship with China and I guess all those Chinese students that we really need and Trump has always been okay with, another one got busted smuggling biological material. Last week it was the fungus. Talked about that with Frank. This was Monday. Again, the Detroit airport, and again, a student involved with the University of Michigan. Do we do Chinese names authentically ethnic, or do we just, is that only a Spanish
For some
thing?
reason, that's racist, but the Hispanic one is culturally correct. We do.
It's because you can't say it without it sounding like Ching Chong McGee or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it would be like Ching Chong. Well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to, lower myself.
That's right. Only I get to do that on this stream. How about Cheng Zhuan Han? That's the name of this person. Dr. Han, at least future Dr. Han, a doctoral student at a Wuhan college. Yes, that Wuhan of the Virology Institute fame, the Wuhan lab fame. But although that's not where this person goes to school, but same city. This student is accused of sending 4 shipments from China to staff members at a University of Michigan lab containing concealed biological matter. She also is accused of making false statements about the shipments to federal agents. The biological matter is described as related to roundworms, and roundworms are an intestinal parasite that causes sickness. So the arrests last week were about a fungus that can damage food and crops and potentially you if you eat it. This is about, I guess, an intestinal parasite. So obviously damaging if you come into contact with that too. But why are so many Chinese students trying to smuggle dangerous biological material into our country?
It sure seems like that first pandemic might have been on purpose, huh?
I don't know. Well, I have an update in the case of Congresswoman LaMonica McIver of your state, New Jersey. Are you in her district?
No, she's in one of those districts where the Democrats win no matter what.
Okay, so you're in a competitive one.
No, not even remotely.
Oh, who's your member of Congress? Do you know?
Mine?
Probably don't need to know. Doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm Mikey Sherrill. In mine.
I don't even know who that is.
She just won the nomination for governor for the Democrat primary in yesterday.
Well, LaMonica McIver, of course, recently seen hammer punching ICE and DHS personnel outside the detention facility in Newark.
It's not against the law, ho. Fuck you.
Or what NPR describes as a tussle. It was a tussle that they had. A hair-grabbing, hammer-punching tussle. I got to be careful with my hammer-punching gesture because if I do it wrong, it looks...
I was thinking, yeah, everyone was.
That's all right. You know what? Like, I don't know. I'll refine it so it doesn't look
Not
sexual.
there's anything wrong with that, but yeah.
Anyway,
go on.
Alina Habba, the acting U.S. attorney for New Jersey, previously announced that she was pursuing charges against LaMonica. Well, now a federal grand jury has indicted LaMonica McIver on 3 criminal counts, 3 separate charges of assaulting, resisting, impeding, and interfering with federal officers. So she did a lot of hammer punching. She did it to 3 separate people at least. But I'll remind everyone that LaMonica was actually accused of body slamming at least one DHS agent. Were you on the stream for that one? I can't remember.
Yeah, and we speculated they probably were not using the WWE definition. They more meant like checked someone.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
I never saw, I don't know. The woman, Trish McLaughlin, was using the term body slammed a lot, but I think she was just using it improperly, not on purpose.
Well, even if she was using it improperly, old Trish said there's video and we're going to see it very soon. And TikTok.
That
Trish.
was a little while ago, yeah.
That was like a month ago. And so please check Pam Bondi's desk right next to the Epstein files for the LaMonica McIver body slam video, whether it was in fact a check or not, or the tussle video, whatever it might be. But
I just don't know why they make these claims like as if no one's going to remember.
Oh, I remember. If you claim that a member of Congress body slammed a federal agent, I got to see, and you tell me that I'm going to see video of it, I got to see the video of it. I will never.
It'll be Linda
that
McMahon will be the first to do.
Well, yeah, she's education secretary, right? So we have body slam, at least adjacent body slam experience, indirect body slam experience.
There was a WWE episode where Kane body slams Linda McMahon, and someone headlined it. They were like, "Mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, body slams education secretary." Very funny stuff.
LaMonica is saying she's innocent. She says in a statement that the facts will prove she was simply doing her job of congressional oversight. She says she intends to plead not guilty. So maybe this one will go to trial. Maybe we'll see the body slam video. Although it's federal court, so you don't get to watch it, unfortunately.
Tim says there is body check footage.
Where is that?
He'll text me shortly.
Or Tim, drop it in the Discord server for our evaluation. I've not seen such footage.
Well, that would make more sense because I don't know. Trish, I was on a show with her a year ago, and she said I was smart, so I trust her judgment on pretty much anything. It's pretty much that's how I judge people.
All right. Well, another reminder on LaMonica though. Speaker Mike Johnson must now move to remove LaMonica from Congress. George Santos, I'll remind you, was removed for indictment for financial crimes. George Santos does suck. I think it's probably good that George Santos is not in Congress.
Correct.
As a general rule. But rules are rules, and if felony nonviolent charges are sufficient for removal, as they were in George Santos's case, although in fairness to Mike Johnson, that was under his predecessor, Kevin McCarthy, not Mike Johnson. But I don't see any logic by which George Santos must be removed, but LaMonica McIver, who's now facing 3 federal felony assault charges for an attack on federal officers, she must be removed from Congress. They have to start working on this.
Yeah. I mean, if Republicans thought they were taking the moral high ground and setting precedent there, I think, unfortunately, they're going to be mistaken. I think this is going to get reframed as her being a hero against the Gestapo or something, unfortunately. And with George Santos, I mean, I agree he should have been out of Congress, but I think he should have been convicted or before the vote or whatever.
Yeah, that's sort of a two things can be true at once sort of analysis for me. One, I think it was strategically poor for Kevin McCarthy to do it, especially to your point that I think the rule that you should set is presumption of innocence applies to criminal accusations, even for members of Congress. So as a general rule, we're not going to boot for criminal accusation. If there's a conviction, we'll boot for that. They decided that they want to go with just charge with George Santos for, I guess, what you're saying, some moral high ground principle, which is fine. You could say that, like, well, you're in Congress as a matter of privilege, not by right. And so if you're credibly accused of a crime, we're just going to get you out of here. But that is the rule they said. What I want is a rule that applies evenly to everybody in Congress, applies evenly to all parties, which is probably asking too much because it's sort of like impeachment. Even though you'd like to have nice, clean, clear rules on it so it's not a political tool, ultimately the expulsion decision in Congress is a political tool, just like impeachment is a political tool. So it's not a question of a fair, impartial standard. It's just a question of who controls the power at that particular moment. But it is, and again, I'll recognize for Mike Johnson, he's not Kevin McCarthy. It's a different speaker and a different leader, even though it's the same party. But man, does the party look like a bunch of bitches if they kick out George Santos, one of their own, standing high on principle. They can't get the votes to kick this bitch out because she hammer punched ICE agents on video.
And strategically speaking, like, this is me being a hack, but you have to act in your own interest politically. He had one of the most right-wing pro-Trump voting records in Congress, and we could not afford to lose a seat, and they did it anyway.
Yeah, but as Trump would say, he was gay, big time.
That is true. He was very big time gay. Or maybe he's lying about that.
He was. It's a great question because the man himself was so cringe beyond his criminality.
He was nuts.
He lied about
wild.
everything. He was pure cringe. And the question is, would you take someone who's a pure cringe liar but generally votes the way you would want them to over, say, a morally square member of the opposite party? Now, in a functional country, I would be able to answer that question easily. Give me the morally square man because it would assume that we have a base level agreement on core concepts. Because this country is so insane right now, it's hard for me to make that evaluation and say, George Santos sucks, but does he suck that bad compared to like the average Democrat?
Yeah. Tim says.
He did drop it in here, I think.
The video is in the Discord.
Okay, let me. This I think is the original Hammer Punch video.
Is it?
Let's see the date on this. Let me pull it up.
I mean, the date will be the same, won't it? Since it's the same event, or do you mean date of publication?
Well, I guess so. The tweet he gave to me, which is taking forever to load up for some reason, it's from Benny Johnson's account, and it says breaking on May 10th. So that's like right when this happened.
Interesting. Yeah.
Why is this not loading up? You know what? Is this, Tim, is this link functional?
You're fired.
Let's try this. Okay.
I feel like the Trish comment was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It was like right after it happened.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Time is just kind of blending together.
Yeah, this is the original video that was always available. And you can see her in here. So, like, there's a shove.
That
yes.
could
All right.
technically,
There's a shove.
guess, but
That is not a body slam, though. Nobody could plausibly call that a body slam. That's
Right.
ridiculous. That's a
Yeah.
shove, and then there's additional hammer
Yeah.
punching visible at a different video angle. But that is not a body slam. And this video was available, I believe, at the time that Trish McLaughlin made her.
Yeah.
Do I have to? Is that an Irish name? Do I have to say that with ethnic authenticity, like a leprechaun?
And I'm so bad with I can't do that accent very well.
Anyway, no, I don't think this counts, Tim. I think that is a video that was available at the time of her commentary, but I'll have to double check it. Anyway, top of the hour, a little bit past. I'm going to be quick with just a question for you, which is why in the hell is Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri, introducing a minimum wage bill in Congress? Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just optics. So he has a lot of really shitty economic ideas. Like he was trying to cap credit card interest at like what
That
junk
was for
bonds would
later.
pay,
Whoops,
like
that's a good
10%
meme.
interest.
I'll
and
come back to it. Sorry to interrupt.
It's not a So what were you saying?
I grabbed this meme from the Odyssey chat that I was going to show later, but it's unrelated.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm for having a very low minimum wage and not for like the liberal reasons of to bring people out of poverty, blah, 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 because they always want it at a rate that will kill off like 20% of all jobs in existence. The only case I can see from a right-wing perspective for having some minimum wage, and it would be a very, very low one, would be when you are employing low-skilled workers. Let's just say let's say you're in a city where the minimum wage is $10 an hour and you have someone making 10. They could be in a situation where if you got rid of the minimum wage and reduced their wage, let's say to $5 an hour, the federal and state unemployment or welfare programs might kick in 1-for-1, meaning employers technically could exploit that, knowing that it wouldn't actually cost their employees anything out of their paycheck, and they would save money because they're effectively then being subsidized by the taxpayer. So I think you should have a very low minimum wage so that basically you're not killing any, taking any jobs out of existence, especially for young people and low-skilled people, but to prevent, businesses from taking advantage of the welfare state or being subsidized by us, I think you could have something very, very low, and obviously not $15 an hour, but it should be stated that shut up. I'm saying like 9 or 10, which, by the way, is below what the effective minimum wage is right now, because the minimum wage is not what the government says it is. It is realistically what is the least amount of money an employer can offer and still attract workers. And no one is making $7.25 an hour. If they are, they're a waiter. I mean, it's not actually happening. But yes, $15 an hour is retarded.
Thank you. That's the point
Yes.
that I was really trying to get. Your argument is interesting. If you assume the benefit structure, then maybe it makes sense to prevent someone from being a drain on. But ideally, of course, you remove all the from a conservative perspective, you remove that entire structure because it's not the role of government.
I'm just saying, in a world where they do exist, and I'm basing this off of, I saw evidence that there have been cases where employers offset some of the benefits of the earned income tax credits that their employees received from their wages, and it's not 1-for-1, it's just some percentage of the benefits, but it is the case that employers can sort of take advantage of that. Now, obviously, the other side of that argument is if you have the minimum wage killing jobs, well, then you have people where 100% of their income is getting subsidized by the government. So it's a very tough balance, and I don't know what the right number is if we're going to have a federal minimum wage, which we are, but it should be very low just for the sake of the fact that we don't want to put people out of jobs, and even
Well, the real minimum wage is always zero. Thomas Sowell, right?
Yeah, it's true.
That's the federal minimum wage.
Jobs,
they'll get you there.
There are certain jobs as well where they can't really be evaluated in terms of, what are they producing versus how much money do we get paid out? Like, how much money do employers generate per unit of, per hour of labor versus what they're paying out? In that there are some that are like almost like loss center type jobs, like just general customer service. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, I don't know, having an usher at a movie theater or something, or having a kid with a squeegee do your windshields at the gas station. It's like an extra service, just makes things more pleasant, even if the point isn't necessarily to make money. And I don't know, it does seem like every retail place has gone to shit in the past 10 years, which I blame immigrants for.
Well, let me back up and just catch people up to speed on what this is. So, again, minimum wage hike federally from Republican Senator Josh Hawley. The Higher Wages for American Workers Act would set the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour and raise it annually on the basis of inflation, which is very convenient considering it will cause inflation. Given how contrary this is to free market philosophy, and even I think even Federalist philosophy, that is to say, even if you believe in the value of a minimum wage, is it really the federal government's role to be setting that, or is this a state's thing to decide? But sorry, do you have a thought?
The reason the federal government is a horrible place to set it is because the cost of living among states.
Get that mic on your face.
Oh, so the cost of living between states and even rural versus cities can be 50 to 100%. So yeah, having the state determined, it makes no sense at all. Like having this $15 minimum wage. It's not going to kill jobs in New York City, but if you are in Kentucky, it is going to destroy a very significant amount of jobs.
And so what is Hawley's reason for bringing this bill? This is a populist position, he says. If we're going to be a working people's party, we have to do something for working people. And working people haven't gotten a raise in years, so they need a raise. Actually, they have, because very few of them work for $7.25 or whatever the minimum wage is. So the federal government doesn't give you a raise in that way. But it presumes that the policy actually works. And, there are studies and fact checks that I'm sure Matt could tell us about that probably.
Well, wages are going up. And the thing is, if you include total compensation, they're actually going up. Or I should back up. So there's a very famous chart showing how wages have been largely flat since the 1970s. Like, it's 1973, and there's all these other weird things that trend oddly with 1973. But there's different measurements of inflation. So the number actually does differ depending on which inflation metric you use. And if you include benefits, and the percentage of total compensation that's in benefits has doubled since the 70s, wages they unfortunately have not actually tracked productivity, but it's like 80% tracking it used to be 100%. So that is a gap that needs to be closed, but it's not quite flat. Now, the disclaimer to what I just said is a lot of that increase in benefits is because of healthcare going up. Now, my healthcare costs have basically doubled in the past 5 years. Now, I don't get
ready.
paid get
ready
paid
soon to be dad.
It's going through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So my healthcare has doubled in the past 5 years. If my employer paid it, which I don't get paid through my employer, that's an extra however many $1,000 in my total compensation in this equation. However, it's not a monetary benefit. And the healthcare I have today is identical to the healthcare I had 5 years ago. So it's one of those things where on paper it probably appears to be going up more than it is, just because it's not like the quality of healthcare is going up. It's not doubling over the past 5 years. So I guess I'm giving many different answers here. Wages are either flat, but they go up with benefits, or they are tracking productivity up to 80%. So there is actually a lot of work. There is 20 percentage points of work to be done there, I would argue, but it's not necessarily zero. Although they did go down under Biden. I'm very incoherent I'm trying to give like every possible perspective on this.
Can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about the things?
Right.
What's going to happen? Whatever happens in the comments whenever I do this is people like attach to the one explanation I gave that they don't like, and then say I'm an idiot.
Back to Hawley. No, I appreciate the detail. Thank you.
Yeah.
Back to Hawley, though. And I understand this, like, I don't know, I'm going to be a guy who tries to stand up for whatever political appeal he's trying to make. Yeah. It's not just this, though. He also teamed up with Bernie Sanders on a bill to cap credit card interest rates at 10%, which is going to work. Stupid. It's going to work just like minimum wage. Okay. With minimum wage, instead of getting a higher paying job, entry-level workers get no job. With credit card interest rate caps, those with poor credit, they just get no credit card instead of a high-interest credit card. So is Hawley just economically retarded? Is this some political angle? I mean, it could be both. The thing I don't understand about the political angle, or maybe this is built into it, this has no chance of passing. This is just an intellectual exercise. It takes 60 votes in the Senate to do either of these things, the credit card thing or the minimum wage thing. It's not going to happen, at least in this Congress. And so Hawley knows that. Does he see some political benefit in endorsing Bernie Sanders-style economic policies while not actually having to vote for them or really stand by them? Is that the game?
Well, it's the Don Fetterman strategy. He says all these right-wing things on TV and then goes and votes for having dudes in women's sports. Like it's he's playing both ends, and Hawley is doing that too. These are economically retarded ideas. I mean, you made the case well enough that if you capped credit card rates at what he gets, pretty much no one would qualify because it's an unsecured loan. Like the reason, mortgage rates are so quote unquote low is because, well, if you don't pay it, they just take the house and, they'll probably sell it at something of a loss, but they're going to get back most of the money. If it's a credit card, I mean, they're going to sell the debt to someone else who's going to sell it to someone else it's just going to get bid down over and over and over. And there's nothing they can really do. So, yeah, it's a truly terrible idea, and the alternatives are worse. They're going to have to go to payday loans or micro-lending or the places where you finance a burrito, so not great.
I've heard of that. I just want to do that for the experience one of these days. I want to pay for my Chipotle in 4 interest-free payments.
Well, and the thing is, it can't be interest-free.
There's got to be some fee in there. Otherwise, how do they make money?
The amount of risk those companies are assuming is tremendous because there is no higher risk group than people who have to finance.
I want collections sent after me for my Chipotle. That's the life experience I want. Anyway, we're late to get to callers, so let's hop into it. Are you hop into the Discord server and I'll get Zero Snark 30 is up first. And we'll do email questions after that. I'll get to super chatters after that. I know you guys have been waiting for a long time, so I appreciate your patience and thanks for supporting the show. But Zero Snark, are you there? I got to give Matt a minute to get in the hold on. I forgot to unmute myself.
I'm in the admin one.
Yeah, but you got to hop in the live room. Hold on, Zero Snark.
What does that mean? Map Christiansen calls?
We went through this.
Oh, yeah, we did go through this many times.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
You're fired.
Okay. Zero Snark, are you there?
I am. Hi.
What's on your mind?
Well, a lot of recent news has got me thinking of, I think, my favorite writer of essays. I love C.S. Lewis. I like a lot of his nonfiction more so than personally Narnia. A lot of people really like Narnia, part of their childhood. But when I got into his essays, I thought that's really made me feel sane. I'm going to give you a quick quote from 2 essays, both of which he published in 1943, where he cited 2 types of people that often make it difficult to have a society. One is, let us see, the type of men whose taproot in Eden has been cut, men to whom pebbles laid in a row are more beautiful than an arch. And such men, forbidden to honor a king, will honor millionaires, athletes, or film stars instead, even famous prostitutes or gangsters. That's one type of person. And when I see the riots in LA, I see that. And in another book he published same year, Abolition of Man, he mentioned how when nature is conquered by mankind, as it were, it would actually instead lead to this weird upper class of people he called conditioners who would control everything that we see and experience through technology, and that they would not have any real values to guide their own actions. So they'd be these aimless, godless, weird zombies. I'm so glad none of that came true. Otherwise, it'd be really scary out there today.
His Lewis's best quote was, and you probably know it, the one where he was talking about how the greatest tyranny is one that is for the good of its it's for the best of its own victims, and you probably know the rest of the quote, but he has a lot of really good ones. Screw Tape Letters is a brilliant book as well.
Right, the worst tyranny is done by the people who are doing it out of their own conscience. They're doing it to obey their own conscience because they'll never get tired because they think, oh man, I'm so glad I'm doing the right thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens to people when God is removed, or they move away from God, or however God gets alienated from people in many different ways? It's like it never seems to work out well. There are substitute moral frameworks, substitute idols, substitute everything. Who's responsible for the God-shaped hole quote?
Oh, it's Norm Macdonald.
Is that okay?
To Larry King?
I don't know.
That
was Norm Macdonald? No way.
Okay, the one I'm thinking of, Larry King was making some atheist statement, and Norm just looks at him and goes, "Man, it sounds like you have a God-shaped hole in your heart."
Yeah, he was probably referencing
originally Pascal.
Okay, but that likewise, I mean that piece of general wisdom I think is true, that just because you remove God from your claimed belief system doesn't mean that the role of God disappears. What I mean by that is other things get substituted, and those other things are often false or misleading or not, in fact, substitutes for God. They're just stand-ins. And so you get all sorts of bizarre, misled, degenerate, insane behavior like what we've observed in LA and the people you're talking about.
The only exceptions you even see to that, like obviously there's a religious left in this country, and like there are a lot of wacky churches that do the trans stuff and all that, but it's almost like they're political organizations where faith is just the secondary thing they try to use to rationalize their politics. And I remember someone did that there's a famous quote by Norm Macdonald where he's like, what a coincidence that the good guys always win in history. So someone revised it and was like, the whole moral arc of the universe bends around the 1960s civil rights movement. What are the odds?
Yeah.
It's basically the world they're living in.
Zero Snark, did you have a final thought before we let you go?
Right. Well, one last thing earlier from one of those essays where it's comparable to what we've been talking about, how wait, wrong quote. I'll just go with the previous one I was going to say earlier, how when people say that mankind can triumph over nature with advancements, that turns out when you have advancements, it turns out we just we don't conquer nature. It's man conquering other men with nature as its instrument. So as society advances, and then there's godlessness where there are no values. This is my last sentence, I promise. It turns out you end up with a bunch of people who just go with their feelings and feeling aggrandized. And last quote, found it, that a dogmatic belief in objective value is crucial for an authority that is not tyranny and obedience that is not slavery. That's all.
Yeah, appreciate the wisdom and the thoughts. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you,
Matt. I'm getting a little bit of feedback off you. I forgot we need to do headphones next time. What I mean by that is, are you on speakers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you turn those down like as low as possible? Yep. I didn't notice it earlier. When the caller. And hopefully it wasn't going on the whole time when I was talking. At least
when we go back, is it okay to turn up my ears are working on overtime right now?
Well, that's why we need headphones. Yeah, because otherwise it's just going to feed into your mic.
I might be able to hook up Bluetooth headphones to it.
Oh boy. Let's just turn down your speakers tonight as low as is workable for you, and then
is this fine?
I don't hear any feedback, or I don't hear any, and I don't see any lighting up. But when the caller called in, I saw some lighting up off your mic. So I just want to make sure.
All right.
That,
all right, we'll try it for the next call. Then if not, I'll.
All right. Well, Ratchet Republican's here, and he's very loud, so it'll be a good test. Ratchet, are you there?
Hi. Yes. Hey, how's it going?
We are well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I didn't mean to call you loud in a mean way. I just mean you project well, and we're having some audio issues with Matt, so your voice will test it well.
Always me.
Yeah.
And it's always audio.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll test it out. Yeah, I wanted to call in to check on to vent my frustrations with the Democratic gaslighting on immigration. You notice that they talk about being willing to deport violent immigrants, but then they put forth laws that protect violent immigrants. If you notice that the sanctuary cities are not put in place to protect illegal immigrants that don't commit violent crimes, it is to protect the ones that do. And that is why they don't cooperate with ICE when they commit their when the violent criminal commit their crime and they have an ICE detainer. They don't follow the ICE detainer. So I don't understand why they're coming and being two-faced in your face, saying that yeah, we agree with you that we want to deport violent immigrants. I just duplicitous, and it's a lie. They don't want any immigrants to be deported. They want all of them to stay here. And the second thing is that there is some time limit in the laws, immigration laws, that you can stay. If you escape immigration law for a couple years or 10 years, 15 years, then you become immune to it. So you're here for 10, 15 years, you have children, you build a family here. That makes you automatically immune to immigration law. And that's what pisses me off, because when you do stuff like that, you reward bad behavior. And what you do is you allow want people to come here and continue doing that. So I just can't stand the two-facedness and the duplicitousness of the media and the Democratic Party when it comes to immigration.
I wish they would just be honest. I wish they would say, we like those guys who have felony convictions for their sexual contact with minors. I say that half jokingly, but I don't think you're wrong. I don't. If it was anything other than what you're saying, the reaction would be different. It's like you'd see a list of a dozen people with serious convictions, violent convictions, like you're talking about, and you say, well, I still have some concern about how this is being conducted, maybe, but you wouldn't take issue with the premise of deportations themselves, because you would certainly agree those are people who need to be deported. But to your point, not only did the politicians have any mention of that, did the protesters, as they want to be called, the rioters, did they have any concern for that? No, they're mad that those people are being scooped up.
Exactly. There's no delineation between illegal immigrant that has committed a violent crime and one that hasn't. They want all of them to stay. And the fact of the matter is that the Democratic Party wants to use these people for the census so that they can keep their power in California and in the whatever states that they're in. They want to use them as political gain, and it doesn't matter whether or not.
That absolutely has to be revised too. The rule that we use residents rather than citizens for census, for counting in the census, and therefore determining our seats in Congress, that needs to be redone. That is preposterous.
It's like 20 plus seats Democrats get an advantage from that.
Yeah.
And actually, to your guys' points, so I was going to say, there's been a lot of high-profile killings by illegal aliens, and I can't think of a single one where any Democrat has even put out a tweet condemning it ever. Like Laken Riley, I mean, anyone recent. So if they're really going to say, oh, we just want the hard-working seamstresses but not the criminal ones, they're not proving it with their actions.
Yeah, and I hate the whole argument about they pay taxes and blah, blah, blah. Listen, it's just like a drug dealer. If a drug dealer used some of his ill-gotten gains to help the community, to give out turkeys during Thanksgiving, give toys during Christmas, does that mean that shield him from federal law? No, you're still going to prosecute him. It's the same thing when it comes to illegal immigrants. You don't get shielded from immigration law because you happen to pay taxes. That is not the definition of an American citizen. So I don't understand why these arguments are given any credit or any light.
Well, the only reason I'm laughing a little bit is because I'm picturing fentanyl OD from too much Thanksgiving turkey.
When they make the tax argument, it's like $50 to $100 billion a year that illegals pay out of a $6 trillion budget. And illegals are probably 10% of the population. Like, if I did the math in an article once, that if Americans as a whole pay taxes at the rate that illegals do, it's the deficit would be more than double or triple what it is currently.
I haven't heard it.
It's laughable the amount that
I haven't heard
it.
It
almost nothing
phrased in a percentage. I mean, I mean, it is commonly stated that there may be something like 30 million illegals in this country, and maybe it's even higher, but I haven't thought that. If that's true, 1 out of every 10 people you encounter, if every American was in the same place, 1 out of every 10 would be an illegal.
Like, I think my math is right on this, but okay, let's say it's like 50 billion, which I think actually is the number they quote. I was just trying to give a big range. Okay, out of 30 million illegals, that's like, what, $1,500 per illegal in tax? Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ratchet Republican. If you have a quick final thought, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is that Trump has to realize that this is going to be a long fight. He has to be in it for the long haul. This is not going to be done in a week, 2 weeks, a month, or even a year. This is going to be a protracted fight. And this is one of the fights that I agree that he should be fighting. I don't agree with the trade wars, but I do agree in the immigration wars. And this is something we win it, we are going to have put the 2028, 2032. We are going to be guaranteed to have Republican power.
Well, winning it is it's going to take a lot of trains, unfortunately. That's a lot of people to haul to get in, but it depends on your definition of winning, I guess. But yeah, and to your point, for whatever divided opinions people may have about Trump, I don't like that he's doing this on the trade war, or I don't like that he's picking that fight or whatever. You're exactly right that generally speaking, not just his party, but Americans as a whole are behind what he's doing on this. And so...
Yes.
If he has one wise use,
the illegal immigrants.
Yeah, if he has one wise use of his political capital, it needs to be spent on that issue 100%. That is the reason he was elected, even more so than the economy, probably is to get this problem under control. And that means not just turning off the border. That means removing the people who benefited from certainly the last 4 years of open border policies. But as you're saying, it goes back much longer than that. So anyway, thank you for the call. Really appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate it. Bye.
Okay. Last call tonight is going, speaking of, unpronounceable Chinese names. Justin, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. How do I say that in ethnic terms? Never mind. Or in ethnic, with ethnic style. Anyway, what's on your mind?
I have such a hard time envisioning the logic behind the lefty arguments against deporting illegal immigrants, like, how do they expect to persuade people with they work hard, they pay taxes? Like, pursue that thought just a little bit further. How are they working and paying taxes when they can't have a legitimate Social Security number?
Yeah. Yeah, they got to steal them, which is like, that's the argument of Mike. They're like, well, they do pay them is they steal Social Security numbers. I'm like, wow, they're great people. They're stealing people's identities. Like, you hearing yourselves?
But then they work hard.
Yeah.
It's like, the people who call you up with a scam from Nigeria. They worked really hard to secure your phone number.
This whole idea, like, the definition of America is that you're a hard worker. I'm like, there's billions of Americans then. I'm like, what a dumb idea of that's what makes you an American.
Well, and if they're not stealing, if they're not stealing Social Security numbers, then their employer is paying them under the table.
Yep.
So either way, you're flouting the law.
Yeah, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but like the illegals as a whole bid down wages. So if you're a legal resident and your wages are bid down, you're paying taxes and artificially low wages. So they are also costing tax revenue in that regard, and no one really ever acknowledges that.
Yeah. Americans are unwilling to do the jobs for the pay that you're offering because it's artificially low.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for another example, there was a comic I saw just today on the internet. It was just this regular guy talking to an illegal immigrant like, hey, I feel for you, but you should have gone about this the legal way. And then the next panel has the guy waving a Mexican flag on top of a burning car. And then in the next panel, he says, did that change your mind? The guy says, yeah, it did. I no longer feel for you.
Good.
Yeah. And I understand that not everyone is, even not every illegal immigrant is the flag burner, like violent type. But yeah, I think, does it matter? If you enter this country contrary to our laws or in avoidance of our laws, even if there's no violent act associated with it, you've shown a level of disrespect for our country that should prohibit you from being here. I know that not all these people are crazy car burner or flag wavers, but just because you happen to be a little bit more peaceful in your means of breaking the law does not entitle you to presence in this country. And I don't know. No matter how hard, it's like shoes on the other foot, like we were talking about on Sunday. If I just show up in Guatemala and start working really hard in a field, I'm not a Guatemalan. If they tell me to go home, I'd be like, yeah, that's fair. You know, if I just go to someone's house, so you think about your country the same way you think about a house. If I go to someone's house, my neighbor's house, and I'm not invited. He didn't say come over and hang out. I just show up and I start mopping the floors, but I'm doing a great job. Like really high effort, getting all the spots out, you know, just shiny, clean floors. He's still justified in saying, get the hell out of my house, man. Hey, listen, I appreciate that you cleaned up around here, but still, it's my house. Get the hell out of here. Yeah. And if anybody can come in at any time, whether they mean to clean your floors or trash your place and steal all your beer, it's not your house if your house operates that way. It's anybody's house, and you just happen to be there. The same is true about your country. If anybody can come in, even if some of them mean well, it's not really your country. You have no rules. You have no control. It's just a place that you happen to be, and that's all.
Yeah. You ever see that Sam Hyde clip about what it means to be an American?
I don't know.
He's like, listen, we all know what an American is. You know, if you come at me with definitions and I have to look through a dictionary, I'm just calling you a slur. Which I think is the correct way I go about it.
All right. Justin, do you have a final point before I let you
go? Just one more example with that Gavin Newsom quote, like, today it's illegals, tomorrow it's you. Like,
yeah.
Even if I grant that, and to an extent I kind of do, because the problem has gotten so bad that in order to fix it, there are probably going to be some uninvolved people that get caught in the blast radius.
There'll be mistakes, yeah.
But you know how that could have been prevented? Don't let the problem get as bad as it has.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's true with any crime. We see these under-policed cities where they just are really relaxed about their mob behavior, like we're seeing, or any other form of crime. You think you're being humane by letting it go or something. No, it only enables additional mistreatment of people on a larger scale. So long term, it's actually grotesquely inhumane. And but that is the way it operates. Like
first they came for the illegal aliens. And I said you missed a few.
All right. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it.
You guys have a good night.
You as well.
Have a good night.
Okay, thank you to our callers. Appreciate you guys. And we're going to get to our emailers, and then we're going to get to Super Chats. Thanks again to Super Chatters. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate your patience as well. As a reminder, if you'd like to send an email for consideration on the show, you can do that by visiting the contact page on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. Look for the MC Live questions box. You can submit there. And hopping into those email questions, careful here. This one is from Vig Vagina. Vig Vagina.
That's disgusting.
New rule for federally elected representatives: upon inauguration, each is gifted a houseplant for their office. If the plant dies, assuming no foul play, then the representative is expelled. How could this be improved? Well, first of all, I like this premise.
I agree with that.
This is an interesting play on what we've been talking about and some other discussions on this theme, Matt, which is if members of Congress, I hate this idea that members of Congress are supposed to represent like everyone. You're supposed to be an AOC style bartender who just came from nothing and is suddenly bossing everyone. If you want the job of telling other people how to run their lives, you need to demonstrate some level of success in your own life, building something, at least maintaining something. I'm not taking shots at people who are just getting started. We've all been there. But if you are a young, wide-eyed person who has not built a damn thing in your life, you have no business telling other people who have built successful things what they must do. So if not for some requirement of like a certain success that you have to have achieved to get into Congress or a certain benchmark of contribution to society, how about just a test of how well you can like manage your own affairs? And
is this like shopping cart theory?
Yeah, I guess. Like we should spy on them and see if they put their shopping carts in the corral.
Yeah.
You're right. If you are ever caught, every once in a while, I don't know. I find Home Depot to have insufficient corrals. And so whenever I'm at Home Depot, it's the corral is always like a mile away. And I think, nope, this is my time to earn my citizen medal. I must trek across this 100-mile parking lot to return the corral to the cart to the corral. Otherwise I'll be a failure as a citizen.
The excuses people make to not, like the people who don't return them are really defensive, and they'll come up with these situations in their mind where like there's like bandits hiding in the parking lot waiting for mothers with children to put their kids in the car and bring the cart back.
It's a safety thing. That's why I have to leave
lock
my
the car. Like what the fuck? Anyway,
yeah, or just take your kids with you. It's fine.
They took them with them to get the cart, didn't they? Like anyway.
If you are that afraid of the store parking lot, you shouldn't be shopping at that store. Period.
Yeah.
But anyway, how could this be improved? The only way this could be improved is not only are they expelled for failure, they are tarred and feathered. That would be the only improvement. But I like that. The best I can say on the other side of this argument is, hey, states have a right to elect who represents them in Congress, no matter how stupid those decisions may be. We shouldn't federalize any requirements beyond the base level age stuff because that infringes on states' rights to pick their representatives. I don't know, man. We got a bunch of fools, degenerates, a bunch of people who have never built anything in their lives, who insist they know how to tell other people who have built successful things how they should do it better. Mechanisms to cut down on that, even if they're just kind of innocent and fun, like a houseplant that you must take care of. I mean, I'm interested. I'm listening to such ideas. But thank you, Vague. I appreciate it. Nate. Hi, Matt. Have you considered the parallels between the LA riots and the Texan War of Independence? Both involved governments inviting migrants in for economic benefit until they outnumbered the citizens. The new migrants ignored efforts at assimilation and retained loyalty to their home country. A crackdown sparked violence supported by the country sending the migrants. Is the next step secession and the Mexican-American War too? I was thinking this view resolves some of the apparent contradictions, like waving a Mexican flag while complaining about deportation. In the mind of the migrant, there is no contradiction using the above scenario. Well, if you have the mind of like a conqueror, then it makes sense. If you have the mind of someone coming here to live the American life, then you don't. But you wouldn't be waving that flag if that's really what you thought. Now, I don't know much about the history of the Texan Revolution. So if you do, Matt, jump in. But I'm just going to take your historical characterization as true because I don't know much about that. But the sequence that is described here certainly tracks. Too many people of a different culture imported too quickly. They will not integrate or assimilate. And I don't know if that conflict is going to cause a split in the states like we heard about from the MSNBC guy, but it certainly could. That is the sort of issue, the sort of divide that could split a country, that could spark some sort of revolutionary or independence war. Again, it's like we talked about with the MSNBC guy earlier. If you don't agree on the general rules of who can and cannot enter, who can live here and who can't, who's a citizen, who's not, it's not a country. There's not even a country to split at that point. It's just it's a blob, and you have to start a new country out of it. But do you know much about the history of the Texan Revolution and all that?
No, but I trust this guy's judgment.
Okay. Well, he did say that you're smart, so,
Oh, he did? All right, perfect. That's all I need to know.
Euro, looking for a green card. Hi, Matt. Last Wednesday, you made the point that the purpose of sex is procreation. You then claimed that morally, only sex between a man and a woman can be squared. I do happen to agree with this, but how would you argue for that in secular terms? Sex is clearly also for bonding and entertaining, so if a person doesn't have their morals grounded in religion and claims they like to do butt stuff together and whatever it is women are doing together, how do you argue for the moral high ground?
I want some butts!
Being a lesbian has got to be the most boring thing on the planet.
Do they do butt stuff too? I don't know.
I don't know what goes on, but I can't. It's very. I just what there can't be. Isn't lesbian bed death like a documented phenomenon that lesbians don't really have sex?
I thought they just beat each other's asses. I thought that's how it works.
They do that too.
You're the stats guy. You're supposed to know.
It's not. Well, I did know a stat that when people talk about like domestic abuse, it is like per capita. I think they are the highest. Like it is a double-digit percentage is lesbians.
It's one of those they just stopped studying it because they don't like the answer. Now, this what he's talking about there was with reference to the Glenn Greenwald scandal. I assume you're familiar with that. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't watch it because I didn't want to know, but I saw a still from it.
Yeah, that's all
in front of the camera like this.
That's all you need.
And that's all I needed to know.
I actually do think what I was talking about is a completely secular argument, at least as I recall. I don't think I invoked God or Jesus or even by implication. Not to say they're irrelevant. They are very relevant, but I don't think the argument requires accepting belief in God or Jesus Christ for the argument to track. The argument is simply that there is a purpose for the sexual relationship, and that is children. The production of children is what separates the relationship between man and woman from every other relationship. Your relationship with your friends or your professional relationships or your relationships with your siblings or whatever, depending on, your view on incest, I guess. But that is a moral problem for the same reasons. Yeah. Anyway, hence the purpose of the sexual relationship. And those children, having an inherent right to life, have a right to a mother and a father because that is what provides best for the child. You don't have to go in religious terms for that. Go by scientific study, not godly command. You want to know the single best predictor for the success of a child, it is a married mom and dad. So the question fundamentally is, what is the purpose of that sexual relationship? Again, not in godly terms, just in secular terms. If it is just for your own kicks, like I enjoyed that, it was fun, everybody consented, then yeah, what Glenn Greenwald did isn't really wrong. If it is for the purpose of production of children and family, then Glenn, what he did or what he does is a deviation from that purpose. And again, as I've said previously, I don't say that to attack him. I hope that he recovers from the things that he's doing. I hope that he moves beyond them insofar as I believe them to be wrong. I'm not trying to dunk on the guy. I'm just trying to recognize what I think is bad behavior and behavior that should be rejected and improved upon. But back to the point on the purpose. You could have two competing views on this. Is sex, is it just an enjoyable activity that happens to produce kids incidentally? Or is the purpose of sex to produce kids and it happens to be enjoyable incidentally?
Well, that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence or,
Exactly. So one of these, you can have multiple purposes or multiple consequences even. It's just one of these things is primary, the other is secondary. And again, that's by empirical observation. It's not according to religious commandment or scripture or something like that. If the production of children, let's take the other side of it. Like the production of children is secondary. It's actually just about your personal kicks and incidentally, a child it comes about through that. Okay, if that's the case, what do we owe those children at all? Nothing. They're just the byproduct of your fun. They're not something of inherent value, and that's how you get a lot of this moral confusion on this issue and elsewhere. Abortion, absent fathers, related issues. Oh, who cares? Those kids aren't owed anything. Well, they are because you participated in the act with the primary purpose of creating them. That's why you're responsible for them. The only quasi-religious view I think that plays into this argument here is that human life has inherent value. You have to take care of your kids because they're owed that, because their lives have value. Well, why do their lives have inherent value? Religious teaching will tell us that we're made in the image of God. I believe that to be true, not just a religious teaching. But if you don't believe it for religious reasons, if you don't accept the base premise that human life has inherent value for its own sake, that is the base level moral premise for our entire moral framework. All of morality falls apart if that's not true. If human life has no inherent value, there's nothing wrong with you wasting your life, dying of a drug overdose, making a maid video, if that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with murdering your neighbor. There's certainly nothing wrong with extinguishing that clump of cells. So ultimately you have to pick. And if it is religious, this is where it gets maybe religious. Human life has value or not. And if saying that makes a person religious, if that makes me religious or my argument religious, so I guess that's just the way it is, because the counterpoint is totally demonic. So I guess maybe it is just an inherently religious thing. What I'm saying is, whether you accept it because of God or whether you accept it because it's just true, which I would say are basically the same thing, but you might consider them distinct. You must accept that human life has value. If you don't, you have no moral framework, or at least you have a very bizarre, confused one. I think that's a secular proposition, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's a religious or a secular argument?
No, it's a secular argument. And like the nihilist types who like will proudly say that life has no meaning and nothing we do matters. I want someone to do an experiment where like someone like points a gun at them and sees how they react. I feel like life will suddenly have a lot of value in that moment.
Yeah, this does not concern me at all. But I don't like looking down that barrel, so please remove it.
Yeah. So
and that's an interesting way of thinking about it too. Like we all have that survival instinct, that survival reflex. If a threat to your life presents itself to you immediately now, you're not even going to think about it. You're not going to think, wow, how unfortunate it would be if my life were to end here right now, today. I suppose I should take action to mitigate that risk. No, there's something in you that is just a reflex. It's a reaction.
Yeah.
I guess if you wanted to say that life has no value, you would say it's the product. It's simply an evolutionary product, that those who had the reflex survived and those who didn't. I think the question that lingers is, why did they want to survive? Why is survival good? For what reason is survival pursued, even if it's pure instinct? And I don't think that there's a way to get through that question without granting the premise that there is inherent value to human life. But did you follow the story of the abortion? No, it wasn't an abortion clinic. It was an IVF clinic in Southern California, Palm Springs, where that kid blew it up. Because
wasn't he like an anti-natalist person or whatever?
He had the craziest philosophy that nobody consents to being born, and so like having children itself is wrong.
There's a whole subreddit called anti-natalism that I read just out of amusement for how like miserable these people are, but they're truly deranged evil people.
It's such a weird philosophy that human life has no inherent value, but consent is critical. Like what?
And they never commit suicide either. So,
well, I guess this kid did. But to your point that the threat exists, they're not all committing suicide all the time, right?
Yeah, which you think if they're gonna, I don't buy. I'll take them seriously once they off themselves. The trannies do it without having to even ideologically be committed. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it on email questions again. Thank you to the email question or the question emailers. Appreciate you guys. If you'd like to send one for consideration on the show, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. Look for the MC Live questions box. We got to get into Super Chat, and I am way behind on it. So let's get to it, Matt. Over on YouTube, we'll start there tonight. Long Dong John. There's a No Kings protest planned in Bozeman on Saturday, Matt. Will you be going? It'll be like a J6, like that J6 vigil. And you can also get a free pair of Jordans. I have family plans on Saturday, so I'm going to be out of town, but it is possible. I won't be in town in the afternoon when that's going on. Otherwise, I probably would go down there. But it is possible that some of the towns I will be driving through may have such an event. So if I happen to see it, I will stop and at least do... I get so rarely do I have the opportunity for like man on the street stuff, which I don't think I'm great at, but is kind of fun sometimes. If I get the opportunity, if it presents itself, I'll swing by. Are you going to go to any No Kings protest?
I don't know why this is psychologically, but in real life, if you're interviewing someone on the street and they're saying the dumbest stuff ever, it's kind of like amusing and you roll with it. But when you see it in an internet comment section, it's enraging. And I don't understand why it's different.
So you don't like consuming that content is what you're saying?
No, I like it in real life. It's funny, but then when I read it and it's by like Cool Dude 32, it pisses me off. And I don't know psychologically what the difference is.
It is a very man on the street content that's done well. It's a very fine line, I think, between doing a good job of just allowing people to express themselves honestly, however funny or whatever effect that produces, versus like trying to set them up to look dumb or kind of trying to prey on them almost. Now, I guarantee, and when I went to the J6 thing, like Long Don John's talking about, I didn't want to do that to those olds. I wasn't going up there to like deliberately provoke. In fact, I took the opposite path where I expressed views contrary to their dogma in the gentlest terms possible, because I didn't want to be like provocateur guy or attacker guy. And so I think done well, it has to be mostly allowing people just to talk themselves rather than trying to push them in a particular direction. Yeah. But that's the danger of content creation too, is like, well, I got videos to make and I got views to get and I got subscribers to earn. Like when you have to make the content and sometimes the content just isn't there, that stuff can get a little, I don't know, cringe, or just even morally wrong in ways. Like you're preying on people almost, you know?
Yeah, but they're consenting, so.
Well, that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm CIA. JFK shot himself as part of an elaborate ploy to steal the Jack Ruby and frame Lee Harvey Oswald for both crimes. Pam is going to release these documents, but get lost in the truckloads of documents. I don't know what's going on with Pam Bondi, man. I
feel like she's like a show AG, and maybe like Stephen Miller is the actual one. I don't know what her purpose is.
Well, thank you, Mr. CIA man. I appreciate you tuning in. That's very kind of you. And I know we have a lot of Fed listeners. It's probably my biggest demographic is Feds who listen to this show. You know, actually, since receiving an FBI email last fall with the whole Tenet stuff, I have no Fed has reached out to me ever since. I'm very lonely with my Fed correspondence.
When you first read it, did you think it was fake, or did you how do you verify that it's?
Well, it was an FBI.gov email address, which you can't. How do you fake that? And the other reason I knew it was real is because I had already seen the indictment, and so yeah, I mean, unless someone was trying to prank me. But yeah, I haven't followed up with my Fed liaison. He's
I pranked someone in high school. We convinced a roommate of ours that we accidentally killed a guy. And then the next day we emailed him from like a fake detective email. And we're like, we're looking for suspects on this street. And he was freaking out for a day.
That's hardcore. That's a big bit to commit to too.
Oh, well, he like wanted to believe it for some reason. So we just kept. So then we put in the emails. We're like, we believe the suspect's car is, and we made it just a description of his car.
Dude, that is really sketchy though, because you might motivate him to do some crazy action. You might motivate him to.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to see if he would tell his friends, like hypothetically, if we actually did do it. And he told all of them. But then after he found out we were clowning on him, he was too embarrassed to tell any of them that it was all fake. So I guess some of his friends might, they didn't turn us in, but not that we did anything. But some of his friends might have think we killed a guy. It was a good prank.
Highly regarded. Yeah.
Highly regarded.
Banheim Wolf. Matt and I once made love. He told me about his Old West special before he used his leather oak barrel to bust open my saloon doors. He told me next time I would see where the forest meets the peaks.
I will eat your ass.
Thanks for advertising my fine Hero Soap Company offerings. I appreciate that. Joshy boy. Got to disagree with Matt number 2. I assume that's you. I don't know.
It's got to be.
We're not actually equal under the law like we think we are. One popular example would be child custody when it comes to family court.
He's true.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know.
He's right. It's on paper. The enforcement isn't equal, and I mean affirmative action or those kind of laws are a good example too. The Civil Rights Act has never, until Trump, has never been employed to defend white people either.
Thank you, Joshy boy.
Good point, Josh.
The Long Dong John says the most offensive part of the Savannah Hernandez clip is the man bun. I didn't even talk about the man bun, but
it didn't even stand out to me.
Yeah, that was
normalized. It is.
Not that I think you're wrong. It's just there's a long list of things, and the man bun just got lost in the mix. Purpose of the ages. You keep saying the purpose of. I feel compelled to recommend you check out The Purpose of the Ages. To bury the lead, it's about the purpose of the church age. I assume your ministry as well, Purpose of the Ages. Right in line with the context of inherent human value. Yeah, I mean, the base level moral idea here is that things exist on this planet for a reason, okay? Your life itself has a purpose. Your life itself has inherent value. To that extent, all the things you engage in, the behaviors you participate in, all the things you do, they have purposes. They have reasons behind them. And when you pursue those reasons, you are morally aligned. When you deviate from those reasons, you are morally misled. And of course, every person is somewhere in a gray area between walking the perfect path and being totally 180 degrees lost. But we have to maintain clarity on what these purposes are, what the reasons for these behaviors are, so that we can be as close to that correct path as possible. And we have to be willing to say, hey, that person over there, or yourself, I'm on a path that is contrary to that purpose. I'm on a path that is probably not the right one. We should discourage walking that path and get more aligned with the correct one. It's always, these days, everything's framed as hate, or like you disapprove, whatever, like you're on some moral high horse. The reason that people want to encourage moral behavior in others is so that they live happy, successful lives. For all the gay jokes and all the, buttons I have.
Hello, you fat. So you're a queer, aren't you? Queer.
It's not about hatred, okay? It's about finding that path and all of us being as close to that proper path as possible. So thank you for that, Purpose of the Ages. I've realized that, I thought back when I was, a good boy Democrat voter, I thought like, these people were intolerant. I used to believe that. No, it's recognition that there are better and worse ways to live, lifestyles to have. It's not to say that there's no person who does it perfectly. It's just, we ought to encourage good behavior and discourage bad behavior, That's a sign of a healthy society. Instead, we're so lost that, as long as the behavior doesn't, as long as everyone consents to the degeneracy, as long as everybody at the anti-natalist party consents to consuming the Kool-Aid and they all die, who's to say there was any moral problem?
I saw this cartoon. It was like some religious guy with a Bible, and even like a pro-life shirt on, and then you see some woman decked out in like Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ gear, and she goes, "Hey, you can't legislate morality."
I hate that phrase. I mean, I know what it means.
All morality is legislated. Like even the speed limit is a trade-off between how quickly you can get there and how much we value human lives lost per unit of speed or whatever. Like everything is. Yeah,
of course, a murder law is legislated morality. We've determined
that's
that
a
murder
more obvious one. I probably should have went with
immoral. But to steelman that point, I think what they mean is you can't legislate morality to self. And I do believe that is true. My philosophy of the law is, of course, different than my moral philosophy. That is to say, I don't think the government and the law does a great job or even holds the right to govern your own moral behavior to self.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I endorse immoral treatment of oneself. I just don't think the government exists to protect you from yourself in that way. So the degree to which I might agree with the statement is just, I don't think the law is designed to protect external victims from you. It can't really protect you from victimizing yourself. That's why you need a moral core, dare I say a God. But I think that's what that point means when they're
but they're not using it that way. They just mean like we don't like what you have to say, so you can't advance it. Basically,
maybe they probably do. I don't know.
Well, when liberals say you can't legislate morality, that's what I mean. But
over on Rumble, Gavin is appealing to the same people who believe the fine people hoax, so no one who wouldn't vote for him already. Yeah, that's the way I read it, but that's a problem for him politically, because he already has the very fine people hoax vote locked up. He needs to appeal to somebody else. Thank you, Ramsey. Dangerous Spaces. Trump is arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses. So those people can't also have committed egregious crimes. That's true. You can be a seamstress rapist. It's possible.
Never happened before.
And this is that whole who will clean your toilet thing again. Yeah, well, they have been honorably cleaning toilets for years, which means we have to let them into this country. Omelet Overlord, since it's inhumane to send them home for some reason, can we at least admit their homes are shithole countries? I mean, their refusal to leave acknowledges that.
Yeah. Remember when Trump called Haiti a shithole country?
Of course.
Started, and then like Conan O'Brien went to Haiti and took like a nice photo at a resort where the daily cost to stay there, I think, was the same as the annual wage in Haiti. And it was like, hey, it's really beautiful here.
I remember Bill Maher wore a shirt too. Haiti is great already. It's okay, yeah. So tape your show in Haiti, Bill. Build a studio there. Ramsey says, what's wrong with you people? Can we get some likes on this stream? Are people not clicking the like button? I can't make them, but I appreciate when they do. Thank you, Ramsey. Ninja Kitty Bonks. Matt's Legion of Duct Tape Deplorables has declared the man bun a deportable by offense of unanimous vote. Well, all of us except Jeff Sloat. Jeff didn't want to deport Man Bun Man? I'm sure he could be convinced. Thank you, Ninja Kitty. Dangerous Spaces. In another clip with Man Bun and the Midget, they suggested the black mother drive over the median. She replied, but that's illegal. Doubt people who support illegal immigration care about the other laws. There's more of this exchange. I got to go look it up. Because, no, I don't. It's bad for my mental health. I'm going to read a few of these in sequence here. Dangerous Spaces again says, we've had a minimum wage for years here in Australia. Lots of people struggle getting their first job because depending on the job type, there's a set cost you need to be making for the employer. Yeah, well,
I think it's like 20 plus an hour there. It is, and I think it goes up $1 a year. It is an absurdly high one. I think they do have... I know they have laws there where if you're disabled, they can legally pay you less, which itself is an admission that the minimum wage can kill jobs if you're willing to make exceptions, but it is absurdly high there, yeah.
He says, I've used those make 4 payment options before. It's a really good way to have smaller costs spread out over time if you know you can make the payments. Extra fees apply for missed payments. Well, I would understand. Have you done the burrito, though? Now, if you're buying something that's more costly, I would get it, but financing a food purchase is hilarious. If you've done that, Tim, I want to hear about it. But he says, memory.
Technically speaking, if you buy groceries with a credit card, you're doing the same thing.
Well, and I do that. I make pretty much all my purchases on credit card for the sole reason that as long as you're a responsible consumer who doesn't spend beyond your means and you pay it off every month, which I do, you're just taking in that free cash back. And for my family, depending on how much... I mean, it varies, obviously, if we have major expenses or not. But there are some months where you might get a couple $100 free in cash back if you have to make a major purchase or something. So
there used to be a loophole where you could buy those Sacagawea coins at cost from the government, it's like $1 each, and then they would also buy them from you for $1. So you could just buy them for the cash back and then immediately sell them back over and over and over again. And
genius.
Yeah, it got passed quickly. But it was
man,
cool
that's
loophole.
Great, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, scams are wrong. You shouldn't do it. Hey, that's the government's fault, though, it sounds like.
It is.
Anyway, he says, memories after that impromptu stream on the day Tenet died. Someone tried calling me from Argentina. Wonder if it was feds routing their calls. Sometimes I miss being a Russian mouthpiece. Well, I guess if they thought I was caught up in it, maybe they thought you were caught up in it. But mine came, I believe... Well, no, I didn't get a call. I only got an email. So I didn't get like a call from DC or anything like that. So... No strange Argentinian calls either. Ramsey also says, like the stream, share the stream, and give the man you obviously appreciate some money. Well, thank you. If you don't, you must be a blue hair leftist gay tranny. Well, get that mic in front of your face without covering your face, he says. Now we got a new obstacle.
I have to cover my... no one's watching the show for my face.
No. We'll work on it. We got to get you some headphones, too.
I just don't get what it is. Because like on Newsmax, my mic will be here.
This isn't Newsmax. This is a duct tape production.
And it works. So I just don't know if... We'll have to configure this before the next show or after.
It's fine. It's just got to be more... These mics are designed to be in your face. I mean, they can't...
I'll send this guy a pic of my face.
They can be further away, but it's not going to sound the way that you want it to sound, you know? So...
What?
Yeah.
Anyway...
All right. Thank you, Ramsey. And thank you for promoting the show, too. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate people who want to support it. And I got to earn it, of course. I don't take it for granted. So I appreciate you shouting out some support for it. Ramsey also says, Christians don't argue from a secular position. There is no point. Secular doesn't start or finish with anything that matters. Well, I would agree. I agree with the premise that I believe the Christian perspectives to be true. That's why I've chosen to follow Jesus. That said, I think to win people over, you do have to be able to think in a different mindset. You have to be able to entertain a different perspective. And even though I don't think it's necessarily wrong to say, like, Jesus said this and that's the end of it, I don't know that that's always persuasive. I don't know that that wins people over to either the truth or faith. And so that would be my only consideration there is just, I agree the secular position is probably, it's not correct. It's not true. But there are a lot of people who believe it, and so it needs to be engaged with.
That's the thing. Like, I think it's more useful to make the secular argument, even if you think the religious one is justifiable enough, and that, you know, if you're talking to a secular person, it saves you the step of having to convince them that God exists. So, you know, it cuts out a lot of work there. But listen, if you are religious and that is your morality, for people within your, you know, belief system, you do not need a secular argument, of course.
Blankets, thank you, Ramsey, appreciate it. Over on Odyssey, Blanket says, Matt, did you see they have video? They said they have video of Anthony attacking Austin, so the Texas track meet stabbing case. They said they won't release the video. Actually, Tim did send that to me, and I think Tim did, or did my wife send that to me? I can't remember. One of the two. Anyway, I saw the story earlier today, and I forgot to put it in the show notes. But yeah, so they're saying they have video of the stabbing at the track meet, but they're not going to show it. So that tells us what the video shows, doesn't it?
We already know.
Okay. Blanket says, Matt, did you see Caroline Levitt saying a dumb question to a reporter asking if Orange Man supports peaceful protest? Saying what a dumb question to a reporter. I did not. I didn't want. I
gotta look it up right.
I generally don't watch press briefings unless something crazy happens.
They're good.
I also, as a rule, I don't like to encourage the sharing of the chat memes on Odyssey. One thing about Odyssey, you can share memes in the chat. Okay, images. And other chats don't necessarily allow that. So I get good ones from Blankets and other people in the Odyssey chat all the time. I normally don't show them because I don't. I'd probably get in trouble for it. But I thought this one was so good that I saved it. But if I blur it out, then Raju Mohan will spare me, I think. Oops all F slurry, as in the Crunchberry cereal. Oops all berries. Oops all the ICE protesters are oops all fake. I know that. I don't know. It's just something about that makes me laugh. You know why it makes me laugh is because there was a Saturday Night Live bit like 3 years ago with their Trump guy, and their Trump guy is actually pretty decent at his impression. And he did this bit, and I can't do it justice in explaining and like trying to recreate it myself because I can't really do a good Trump or a good impression of a Trump impression, which is even harder. But his Trump character went on this tangent about how oops all berries is a bad thing for the country because we shouldn't be apologizing for the berries. The berries are delicious. We all love them. Why is Captain Crunch apologizing for the berries? That was the oops all berries bit. It was really
so
funny. Yeah. If you can hear Trump talking about how we won't be a country that apologizes for our berries anymore. It was great. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Blanket says, Matt, do you have any favorite channels that do man on the street videos? I think, Fleckus has done really good man on the street content. I think he has a gift for it. You know who else is great with man on the street that I don't think really does it very often, at least if he does, I haven't seen it. But my friend Owen Schroyer over at InfoWars. And the reason I give him a lot of credit for man on the street stuff is because he was kind of a meme factory for a little while there. Like way back in 2016, OG Trump era. He prompted AIDS Skrillex. He was part of that like original meme of that character. And I've seen Owen do it in real life when we were at the RNC in 2016. I just happened to see him there. And he was riding around he wasn't an InfoWars employee at the time, but he was just riding around on a bike, blasting Alex Jones through a megaphone and talking to people who would talk to him. And at one point he debated Van Jones. I saw he was just talking to Van Jones on the street, and it's so interesting.
Oh yeah, so that was actually like a decent back and forth.
Yeah, it was cordial and good, and yeah. So those are the two guys who I think do a great job with it. But it's a fine art, like any form of content. There are great ways to do it, and there are terrible ways to do it. But I think both of them have done great work. All right, that is all the chats. Let me give a quick refresh on YouTube and Tippy. I think we're all set.
Cool.
Anything else you want to mention before we're out of here?
Not particularly. I mean, I guess buy my book. I'm legally required to say that. But
right.
no, nothing really.
It's linked in the description for you if you want to check it out. The Air, all about Alex Soros and his...
Got a lot of good reviews on Nuke English reviewed it. Some guy from the British House of Lords, President of Albania said it was good. So a lot of very, very hard hitters there.
What about Matt Christiansen? He said it was highly regarded.
Coming soon. You can next time I'm on, you should have an endorsement. Right? I'll send you a free copy.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thanks to our live chatters and super chatters, making the live show a success. If you're listening on demand later, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Hey, thanks to Matt Palumbo for sitting in tonight. Follow him on X. Pre-order his book on Alex Soros, linked in the description. Thanks to producer Tim for his continued assistance. Anything show-related, MattChristiansenMedia.com. I'm back on Sunday and Wednesday nights. Hope to see you then. Have a great night.